In this video, I'll share my latest predictions for the 2024 electoral map for all 50 states. Without further ado, let's take a look at the map. I'll start by identifying the solid states that firmly align with either Biden or Trump, boasting margins of 12 percentage points or higher. President Joe Biden is expected to secure Oregon, Washington, California, Vermont, New York, Hawaii, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, totaling 147 electoral votes. Before we keep going, 99% of you guys are not currently subscribed to the channel, so please make sure to hit that subscribe button so we can reach 10K. Anyways, on the other hand, Trump is anticipated to win in Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Nebraska, along with the 1st and 3rd congressional districts of Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, South Carolina, West Virginia, the 2nd District of Maine, and Alaska, securing 132 electoral votes. Moving on, let's look at the states that are likely to lean towards Biden, even if their commitment isn't as strong as the solid blue states. These states are projected to have margins between 5 and 12 percentage points in favor of Biden. Currently, Joe Biden is expected to carry New Mexico, Colorado, Illinois, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Maine's 1st congressional district. Colorado is particularly noteworthy, with Biden holding a 6.5-point lead in recent RCP polling. This suggests a solid victory for Biden, securing Colorado's 10 electoral votes. Historically, a red state since its statehood in 1876, Colorado has shown a consistent blue trend since 2008. Biden's current lead further reinforces the likelihood of Colorado siding with the Biden camp this election. Next, we have New Mexico, which offers 5 electoral votes. According to a public policy polling survey from last August, Biden leads Trump by 8 points. Despite a double-digit victory for Biden in 2020, the upcoming election could see narrower margins. New Mexico, notable as the only state with a Hispanic majority, presents an interesting dynamic. With Hispanic voters increasingly leaning towards the right, Republicans might find better prospects here in the future. In 2020, Trump lost New Mexico by 10 points, but he now trails by a narrower margin of 8 points. Illinois has a strong history of voting blue, with Biden securing a significant 17-point victory in 2020. Given this historical trend, it's reasonable to assume that Illinois' 19 electoral votes will likely go to Biden. However, the current election cycle shows a tighter race. Emerson College polls indicate Biden holds a 9-point lead over Trump. Although Illinois hasn't voted red since 1988, the narrowing margin suggests it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility for Trump to make gains here. New Jersey, New Hampshire, and Maine's 1st congressional district also fall into the likely Biden category, each demonstrating moderate but consistent support for Biden in recent polls. While not as securely blue as some other states, their current trends suggest they'll contribute to Biden's electoral count. Now, let's turn our attention to New Hampshire. Despite its consistent blue leaning in presidential elections, New Hampshire has often elected red-leaning individuals in Senate and gubernatorial races throughout its history. While this trend may not heavily impact presidential voting, it's noteworthy. A recent poll from New Jersey indicates that Biden leads by just 7 points. However, the recent bribery scheme involving Bob Hernandez could impact the Democrats' chance in the state, making it a closer race than last time. Next, on to Maine, which has a unique approach to its electoral votes similar to Nebraska. Maine has 2 congressional districts, each capable of awarding an electoral vote to different candidates, plus 2 additional electoral votes for the statewide popular vote winner. In the 2020 election, Biden won the popular vote in Maine. This year, according to Pan Atlantic Research's latest poll, Biden leads Maine's 1st congressional district by 8 points. However, he faces challenges statewide and in Maine's 2nd congressional district. Despite these challenges, it's anticipated that Biden will secure at least 1 of Maine's electoral votes, bringing his total to 200 electoral votes so far. Now, let's shift our focus to the states where Trump is likely to secure victory in this election: Texas, Florida, and Ohio. Texas, the 2nd largest state with 40 electoral votes, currently shows Trump leading by 8.8%, according to RCP polling data. In the 2020 elections, Trump won Texas by a margin of 5.6 points, the narrowest victory for a Republican in the state since 1996. Despite this, Republicans have consistently outperformed Democrats by around 10 points since 2012. Moreover, Trump and the Republican Party have made significant gains among Hispanic residents in Texas, particularly in the Rio Grande Valley, dimming Democratic hopes of turning Texas blue in the near future. Meanwhile, Ohio is leaning towards a Trump victory, with a recent RCP poll showing him leading by 10 points over Biden. While Ohio voting blue is not unprecedented, Barack Obama flipped the state in both the 2008 and 2012 elections. Biden couldn't replicate that success in 2020. With Trump's substantial current lead, it's reasonable to assume that Ohio will likely swing its 17 votes to Trump's side. Florida, known as the Sunshine State, holds 30 electoral votes up for grabs between Trump and Biden. Interestingly, there's less contention this time around, as a recent RCP poll showed Trump leading by 9.5 points. Given this lead, it's safe to expect Florida's electoral votes to lean red. This brings Trump's total to 219 electoral votes so far, marking an increase of 87 votes. Let's now move on to categorize the states leaning towards Joe Biden, with margins ranging from 1 to 5 percentage points, beginning with Virginia. Holding 13 electoral votes, it stands as another pivotal battleground to monitor closely. The margin between the two candidates is tighter than in the 2020 election, with Biden currently leading over Trump by 4.3 points, as reported by RCP. This margin marks a 5.7 point decrease from the previous election, possibly signaling a shift in votes this cycle. Virginia's classification as a battleground state underscores its significance, with a significant number of votes at stake potentially determining the election outcome for either candidate. Minnesota boasts one of the most enduring blue streaks in the nation, second only to Washington, D.C. Current RCP data shows Joe Biden leading Trump by a mere 2.3 points. However, this margin could fluctuate if Trump manages to sway voters from the sizable 20% expected to vote for a third-party candidate. Given Minnesota's extensive history of Democratic support, one might expect President Joe Biden to maintain a more substantial lead than 2.3%. Although Biden is anticipated to secure the Minnesota vote, there's speculation that Trump could disrupt his long-standing blue voting streak. So while Minnesota leans towards Biden, there remains a chance for Trump to sway voters. The Nebraska 2nd Congressional District emerges as a unique anomaly within the predominantly red-leaning state. This district witnessed a notable surge in support for Biden, similar to what we observed in the 2020 election when it voted blue, contrasting with the rest of Nebraska and its other two districts. While no available polls exist for Nebraska's 2nd District, based on its voting pattern in the previous election, it's reasonable to anticipate that one electoral vote will tilt in favor of the current president. With 22 votes added to Biden's total, it brings him to 224 electoral votes at this point. Additionally, there are several states leaning towards Trump which are crucial to monitor, as they could significantly impact election projections. While there's no guarantee that states will remain red until Election Day, it's essential to keep a close eye on them leading up to the big day. Now, let's dive into some key battleground highlights, starting with Nevada. Despite Nevada's recent tendency to vote blue, it's not a guaranteed state for Biden due to its diverse voter base, many of whom lean red. According to RCP polls, Trump currently leads in the state with a 3.2-point margin over Biden, averaging 47.5% of the vote compared to Biden's 44.3%. Nevada's electoral behavior is intriguing, as it tends to align with the winning presidential candidate except for the 1976 and 2016 elections. This makes Nevada a state to closely monitor, though its current lean towards red is notable. Moving on to Arizona, Trump currently holds a 4.2-point lead according to RCP polling. He previously secured Arizona in the 2016 election, surpassing Hillary Clinton by a margin of 4.1%. However, the state's voting tendency shifted in the 2020 election, resulting in an incredibly close race where Joe Biden narrowly won by merely 3% of the vote. Given Arizona's consistent red voting history in presidential elections, with 2020 being a significant exception, it wouldn't be surprising if Arizona flipped again. Presently, Arizona and its 11 electors are leaning towards the Trump camp, though a flip towards the end wouldn't be shocking. Georgia, with a total of 16 electoral votes, is another state to closely watch as the election approaches. Trump currently holds a lead over President Joe Biden, with RCP polling indicating a 3.8-point advantage. This contrasts sharply with the 2020 election, where Biden narrowly managed to sway Georgia from Trump by a razor-thin margin of 2%. Historically, Georgia has leaned towards the Republican Party in recent presidential elections since 1996. Biden's 2020 victory in Georgia appears as an outlier. Recent polls suggest a multi-point lead for Trump, indicating that he's effectively secured Georgia as a red victory unless Biden manages to sway them over once again. Now, let's turn our attention to North Carolina, a state that shares many similarities with Florida. While the 2020 race was incredibly tight, the upcoming 2024 election might not be as closely contested. According to the most recent RCP polling, Trump holds a 4-point lead. Despite this, North Carolina remains a highly competitive state and one that could potentially flip. Given its voting pattern in 2020, Trump secured North Carolina by almost 1.5 points in the previous election, suggesting that history may repeat itself in 2024. Although it currently leans red, like many other states, it wouldn't be surprising if it flipped at the last second. Let's move on to Michigan, where the latest RCP averages indicate Trump leading by 2.8%. It's crucial to remember that Biden won Michigan in 2020, despite the state currently favoring Trump. There are signs of waning support from key demographics for Trump, and it wouldn't be surprising if the outcome shifts as we approach Election Day. Historically, Michigan has leaned blue in presidential elections, but Trump now holds a narrow lead over the incumbent president. As it stands, Michigan's 15 electoral votes appear likely to swing in Trump's favor. Turning to Maine, Pan-Atlantic research polls suggest a shift towards Trump, with the former president leading by 6 points. Despite Biden's previous win, Maine's 2nd congressional district has turned red, influencing the statewide vote. We currently expect Maine's 2 statewide electoral votes to align with Trump, bringing his total to 229 electoral votes. Next, let's focus on crucial battleground states for Biden's campaign. Pennsylvania, with its 19 electoral votes, is a critical state to watch. In the previous election, Pennsylvania favored Biden, and currently he holds a slender 1% lead over Trump, according to RCP data. Historically, Pennsylvania has leaned blue, except for Trump's 2016 victory. While the outcome can vary, current data hints at a potential Biden win. Wisconsin, with its 10 electoral votes, is another key state. Given the narrow margin in the last presidential race, it could again be highly contested. Surprisingly, Trump leads by a slim 0.6%, according to RCP averages. He was the only Republican presidential candidate to win Wisconsin since Ronald Reagan in 1984. Despite Wisconsin voting for Biden in 2020, recent trends indicate a red shift, suggesting the state may lean towards Trump. In summary, Trump currently holds a significant advantage with 295 projected electoral votes, positioning him to potentially secure victory in the Electoral College, surpassing Biden's 243. While there is still room for change, Trump appears to have the upper hand at this point.